So I'm Mark Hill of Green Leaves, and I'm here to talk about the Chequers agreement, which has now been taken through to the Commons and is going to be voted on Tuesday. I think a lot of Brexit supporters are opposed to this. I'm opposed to it because particularly of Article 3 of the agreement, which is a ratchet clause which requires us to ask to leave. The European Union has complete discretion as to whether or not it allows us to leave this agreement. And because of this, I suspect that the backstop will bind us indefinitely. And indeed, this is what the controversy last week was about with Geoffrey Cox, the Attorney General, who was asked to produce his legal briefing, the briefing that he'd made to the Cabinet, and it was there confirmed that the legal backstop could bind us into a customs union essentially indefinitely, and we would have paid £39 billion for the privilege. Now, many Conservative MPs are still going to vote for it on Tuesday, and they're using the argument, as is used by my local MP here in Calderdale, that the terms don't really matter, because all they're really about is the withdrawal and implementation period. And indeed, if the terms were variable in that way, and they were time limited, and they were of limited effect, then indeed he might have a case. However, the legal briefing from his own Attorney General contradicts his claim, contradicts the claim of the other Conservative MPs that are intending to support the Prime Minister. And therefore I don't agree with them. I think that they are setting up this country for a trap. We could end up being stuck in some sort of transitional purgatory, never land, for many years before it managed to leave the EU and be part of the ERDF. Norway was stuck inside an interim phase for some 22 years. Turkey applied to full membership of the European Union back in 1987. It's been in a transitional period since 23 years ago, when in 1995 it joined the customs union, is bound to the European Union's common external tariff, can take no formal decision-making role on the way that its common trade works, and is required to accept all EU decisions. It's also required to accept all EU trade agreements. Now, I think we can see from experience that nothing that the European Union does is ever quick, and therefore this transitional period could, indeed probably will, last for many years. We've also discovered that the European Union is a bit of an immovable beast. It is legalistic. It is not particularly tractable to democratic and political arguments, which of course is one of the main reasons why those of us that oppose membership of the EU do indeed oppose it, because it isn't flexible. And therefore I think we can see that the European Union is not going to deal with this situation with Britain flexibly. We will not get anything political even discussed sensibly by the European Union while we are still members of it. And at the moment, until the 29th of March, we are members. The only time they will seriously start discussing trade will be on the 30th of March next year. And yet, if we bind ourselves to this agreement, we will have already given the membership of the Customs Union. We will have given them our commitment to follow any regulatory changes they may make. We will have committed essentially not to sign any trade agreements that don't meet exactly the same terms as the Customs Union require. And we will have given them £39 billion, all by Tuesday. Hence the very large concern amongst those that support Brexit. However, the Conservatives have taken a uniquely incompetent and gutless approach, and have managed to, as a result, simultaneously annoy all the Remainers. Because they're contract with the European Union is so poor, is so restrictive, it's managed to create opposition even from within their own Remainer ranks, and it now looks quite possible that they will get defeated from both sides of their own party. They've adopted customs union membership more or less exactly at the same time as the Labour Party has adopted customs union membership, and as a result they are extremely close, the Conservative and the Labour Party. Practically they are both arguing for semi-permanent customs union membership. But the customs union is not a moral arrangement. It's not one which allows us to, for example, create beneficial trade arrangements for developing countries, or allow us to reduce the prices of those items that are not made here in the UK, or preferentially support, say, fair trade or eco-minded products. It also breaks all of the Conservatives' own red lines on the discussions that they wanted with the European Union, many of which were extremely sensible, such as the European Court of Justice will still have power to rule over the UK. Freedom of movement will be complete, and we won't be able to decide, therefore, whom we wish to accept from other countries, whom we wish occasionally to deport. We will still be making heavy financial contributions. We will not be able to make a proper independent trade policy because we'll be bound to the customs union, and we will not have regulatory autonomy. Now, all of these were pledges made by the Prime Minister and indeed her MPs in their manifesto, and we have managed to blow it. And this is in spite of the fact that Barnier, the negotiator for the European Union, is prepared to offer some sort of variant of a relatively light touch deal, such as the one that the European Union has already negotiated with South Korea and one with Canada. So why are we giving this £39 billion to sign a deal now? It seems uniquely incompetent. When we were told by the Prime Minister that nothing is agreed until everything is agreed, why are we rushing to give them a withdrawal phase agreement with a unique backstop arrangement which is binding and £39 billion before we've even really started the proper trade negotiations which will occur after the 29th of March next year? I instead support just leave. I think we should have a just arrangement with the European Union and indeed with our trade with the rest of the world. I think we should be making no agreement to things like the Euro-Atom Treaty, which is actually strangely bound up with this withdrawal agreement. I think we should make a positive commitment to no protectionism against the third world. I think we should offer justice to the majority in this country who voted for leave, justice for our fishermen, democratic control of all of our trade terms by a parliament that seems uniquely willing to just surrender them to whomever is passing. I don't want us, the Commons, to having spent many decades campaigning for accountability for trade terms here in the UK Parliament and in other government authorities. I don't want to see the likes of the Commons just simply vote away their rights to the European Union and Jean-Claude Juncker. It took decades of campaigning to even get the referendum, a referendum that amongst others the Green Party campaigned for, to make sure that we had proper accountability for trade policy here within the Commons. So it is doubly galling to see those democratic representatives that opposed the referendum or opposed the leave side in the referendum now wanting to parcel away all this newly won power, give it back to Brussels with a backstop that seems designed to constrain people for generations to come. So, my proposal, ladies and gentlemen, let's have the clean break that has been called for by leave politicians within the Commons and outside. We should just leave, Our leave should be about justice, democracy, accountability.